Andrew stormed out of his office, his heart filled with frustration. His girlfriend had said something that really hurt him, and he couldn't shake off the anger. The more he thought about it, the more upset he became. He walked through the streets, trying to clear his head, but nothing seemed to help. Feeling hungry, Andrew spotted a small restaurant and decided to stop by. He ordered a meal, hoping it would help him calm down, but as he sat at the table staring at his food, he found he wasn't really hungry. He took a few bites, but his mind kept going back to the argument with his girlfriend. Why couldn't she understand him? Why did she always have to make things so difficult? He finished eating, but there was still some food left on his plate. Distracted by his thoughts, Andrew got up and left the restaurant, forgetting his wallet on the table. His mind was too preoccupied to notice. Not long after he left, a homeless girl named Amanda walked into the restaurant. She hadn't eaten in days, and the sight of the leftover food caught her attention. She was very hungry, and she could barely think of anything else. The smell of the food was too tempting. Amanda looked around and saw that no one was paying attention. She quietly walked over to the table and sat down, her eyes fixed on the plate of food. She knew she shouldn't be doing this, but she was desperate. She reached for the food and started eating, hoping no one would see her. Just as she took a bite, Andrew came back into the restaurant. He had realized he had left his wallet and returned to get it when Andrew saw Amanda sitting at his table eating his food. He was angry. Without thinking, he shouted at her, "What are you doing? Are you stealing my food?" Amanda was startled. She hadn't expected anyone to come back. She looked up at Andrew, her eyes wide with fear. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to steal. I was just so hungry." Andrew didn't listen. His anger was too strong, and he couldn't see beyond it. "That's no excuse. You can't just take what doesn't belong to you." "I haven't eaten in days," Amanda tried to explain. "I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I just needed something to eat." But Andrew wasn't interested in hearing her reasons. All he saw was someone taking his food without permission. He couldn't understand how someone could be so desperate. He told her to leave, his voice cold and harsh. Amanda stood up, tears filling her eyes. She apologized again, but Andrew didn't respond. He watched her walk out of the restaurant, feeling nothing but anger at the situation. After she left, Andrew sat back down at the table. He picked up his wallet, but something didn't feel right as he thought about what had just happened. A small part of him started to feel guilty. Maybe he had overreacted. Maybe he should have listened to her, but Andrew was too proud to admit he might have been wrong. He tried to push the thought away, but the image of Amanda's face stayed in his mind. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't forget the look in her eyes when she told him she was hungry. When Andrew got home, he was still frustrated. His girlfriend's words kept echoing in his mind. He picked up his phone and called her, thinking that maybe she had calmed down and they could sort things out. They were supposed to attend a big party together the next day, and he didn't want any drama. The moment she answered, her tone was sharp. She wasn't interested in talking about the party or plans. Instead, she made a demand. She wanted a large sum of money if she was going to attend the event with him. Andrew was shocked. He had been generous with her before, always making sure she had everything she needed, but now demanding money just to go to a party felt wrong. He asked why she needed the money, but she didn't give a real reason. She only repeated her demand and hung up the call. Frustration built up inside him. He wasn't going to give in. There was no way he would pay just to have her by his side at a party, but now he had another problem. He couldn't show up alone. It wasn't the kind of event where you arrived without a partner. He needed someone with him, and he needed to figure it out quickly. Sitting in his living room, an idea popped into his head. Amanda, the homeless girl. She may not have much, but he remembered how beautiful she was. Even with the dirt and struggle of living on the streets, her beauty shone through. If she could clean up a bit, she could easily be his date for the party. The idea seemed crazy at first, but the more he thought about it, the more it made sense. The next morning, Andrew got dressed and headed out, determined to find Amanda. He wasn't sure if she would still be in the same place. But he had to try. He searched for a while, scanning the streets where he had last seen her. Eventually, he spotted her sitting at the corner where she often begged for money. Her face was tired, her clothes worn from life on the streets, but she was still there as Andrew approached. Amanda noticed him. Her expression changed immediately. She looked angry clearly. Remembering their last encounter, her eyes narrowed as he got closer. There was no smile, no welcome. She didn't want to see him again, after how he had treated her. Andrew stood in front of her, knowing this wasn't going to be easy. He quickly apologized for the way he acted before trying to explain that he had been upset and didn't handle the situation well. Amanda didn't care for his apology. Her eyes were still cold, filled with distrust. She asked him why he was there. Clearly expecting nothing good, Andrew took a breath and told her everything. He explained that his girlfriend had refused to go to the party with him and now he needed someone else to go. He mentioned how beautiful Amanda was and said that with a bit of preparation, she would be perfect for the event. The idea seemed ridiculous to Amanda. She laughed at him, shaking her head. She couldn't believe he would even ask her. After how he had yelled at her the other day, the idea of a homeless girl attending a fancy party seemed absurd. At first, Amanda refused flat out. She wasn't interested in helping him, and she certainly didn't trust him. After their last meeting, Andrew could see he wasn't getting through to her, so he tried another approach. He told her he was willing to pay. He mentioned the amount, a sum so large that it made Amanda stop for a moment. She hadn't expected that the money he was offering was more than she had ever dreamed of having. It would change her situation, at least for a while. Still, she hesitated. The thought of going to a party with someone like Andrew, who had treated her so poorly, didn't sit well with her. She didn't trust him, and she didn't want to feel like she owed him anything. But the money was too much to ignore. It could get her off the streets, at least for a few days. It could buy her food, maybe even a place to stay for a little while. After a long pause, Amanda finally agreed. She made it clear that she was only doing it for the money. This wasn't about helping Andrew or being his date. It was business. Nothing more. Andrew nodded, relieved that she had agreed. The plan was in motion, and now all they had to do was get ready for the party. Amanda stood in front of the mirror, amazed at her transformation. The dress Andrew had bought for her was elegant, something she had never imagined wearing. Her hair had been done up neatly, and her face looked radiant after a proper wash and some makeup. She hardly recognized herself when Andrew arrived to pick her up. He froze the moment he saw her. For a moment, he didn't say anything, just staring at her in disbelief. She looked stunning, more beautiful than he had even imagined. They arrived at the party, and as soon as they walked in, all eyes were on them. People whispered as Amanda passed by, unable to believe that someone so gorgeous could have come with Andrew. Amanda, feeling the attention, held her head high. She wasn't used to such events, but she walked confidently, knowing she looked the part throughout the night. Guests kept approaching Andrew to ask who his stunning date was. He smiled, keeping the truth to himself, simply introducing her as Amanda. Amanda remained calm, polite, and charming, even though inside she still couldn't believe she was at a fancy party with people who seemed to have everything. The party ended, and as they walked out, Andrew turned to Amanda, thankful for how smoothly the night had gone. He knew that without her it would have been a disaster. He pulled out the money. He had promised her a large sum and handed it to her. Amanda accepted the payment, knowing it was more than she had ever had before. She thanked him and walked away. Andrew returned home, relieved the night was over, but as soon as he stepped through the door, his father was waiting for him. His father was an old-fashioned man, strict when it came to family matters. Without wasting any time, his father told him he needed to find a woman to marry. He made it clear that until Andrew brought a woman home, he wouldn't hand over the family company to him. It was the condition he had set for Andrew's inheritance. Andrew was stunned. He had never expected his father to place such a demand on him. He knew that his father was serious, and that without a wife he wouldn't get the company. but where would he find someone to marry so quickly? His mind raced, and then suddenly Amanda's face came to mind. Without wasting any time, Andrew picked up his phone and called Amanda. She was surprised to hear from him so soon. Thinking their arrangement was over, he quickly explained the situation. He needed her to pose as his fiancée, at least for a while. He offered her even more money than before, promising that she would be well taken care of. On top of that, he would rent an apartment for her so she wouldn't have to live on the streets anymore. Amanda was key for a moment, thinking about his offer. It was tempting. She had just started to enjoy the idea of having money in her hands, and now Andrew was offering even more. The thought of a place to live, no longer having to beg for food, was too good to turn down. She agreed to help him again. With their new deal in place, Amanda prepared herself for the next step. Andrew made sure she had everything she needed, from the rented apartment to the money she would be paid. All Amanda had to do would show up and play her role. Days passed, and soon it was time for Andrew to introduce Amanda to his family. The weight of the situation hung heavy on his shoulders. If his father didn't believe the relationship, he could lose everything: the company, his position, his future. But he felt confident that Amanda would do her part. Amanda, now living in a comfortable apartment, prepared herself carefully for the meeting. She knew how important this was for Andrew, but she also knew it was her chance to escape the streets for good. The money he promised could change her life forever. Andrew arrived to pick her up, and once again, he couldn't help but be amazed by her transformation. She looked even more stunning than before, this time more confident in her new life. Together they headed to Andrew's family home, knowing that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in their strange partnership. Andrew and Amanda arrived at the grand family estate. The house was imposing, with tall pillars, a manicured garden that stretched far beyond the gates. Andrew glanced at Amanda, unsure of how she was feeling, but as soon as they stepped out of the car, Amanda straightened her posture and put on the confident smile she had practiced the moment they walked into the house. Andrew's father stood waiting in the grand living room. His eyes were sharp, sizing up Amanda immediately. He had been skeptical when Andrew mentioned that he was bringing someone home, but now that the moment had come, he was curious to see who this mysterious woman was. Amanda stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. She greeted Andrew father politely, her voice calm and poised. She spoke with just the right balance of confidence and humility, complimenting the home and expressing how honored she was to meet the family. Every word was carefully chosen, every gesture perfectly controlled. Andrew's father watched her closely, but as Amanda continued speaking, his skeptical expression softened. He listened intently as she answered his questions with intelligence and grace. Amanda spoke about her background, carefully crafting a story that matched what Andrew had told her. She didn't try too hard to impress, but her natural charm was undeniable. Before long, Andrew's father was captivated. The way Amanda carried herself, the way she spoke, it all seemed genuine. He had expected someone shallow or materialistic, but instead he found a woman who seemed thoughtful and kind. He was impressed, something Andrew hadn't seen in his father in a long time. By the end of the evening, Andrew's father was completely won over. He even pulled Andrew aside at one point, quietly telling him that Amanda was exactly the kind of woman he had always hoped his son would marry. He praised her intelligence, her beauty, and most of all, her composure. Andrew was relieved, though a bit surprised by how quickly things had turned in their favor. His father, who was often difficult to please, had fallen for Amanda almost immediately. The pressure of the evening had lifted and everything seemed to be going according to plan. Amanda played her role perfectly throughout the night. She laughed at the right moments, complimented Andrew's mother, and even shared a few stories that made Andrew's father laugh, a rare sound in the household. By the time they were ready to leave, it was clear that Amanda had left a lasting impression. As they drove away from the estate, Andrew couldn't help but glance at Amanda in the passenger seat. She had delivered far beyond what he had expected, and for the first time, he realized that she wasn't just some homeless girl playing a part. There was something deeper about her, something he hadn't seen before. When they arrived at Amanda's apartment, Andrew felt a need to clear the air. He looked at her seriously, thanking her for her help. He admitted she had played her role perfectly, and he couldn't have asked for more, but then with a deep breath he told her something she needed to hear. Though he appreciated her, he didn't love her. He was grateful for what she had done for him and his family, but there were no feelings between them. He wanted her to know that nothing romantic would come out of their arrangement. It was all just business. Amanda was unbothered. She told him she didn't care. Love wasn't why she was doing this as long as he kept paying her. That was all that mattered. She wasn't interested in romance, just the money. She had had no feelings for him either, and she made that clear for her. This was a temporary way to get out of the streets, and nothing more. Andrew nodded, feeling relieved that they were on the same page. He had been worried that things might get complicated, but Amanda's calmness reassured him. They said their goodbyes and Amanda went inside her apartment, while Andrew drove home a few days later. Andrew's father called him. He wanted Amanda to spend the weekend at the family house. His father had grown fond of her even more than Andrew had expected. Amanda had charmed him completely, and now he wanted to get to know her better. Andrew felt a knot in his stomach, knowing that keeping this act up was becoming more complicated, but he had no choice. His father's approval was everything. When Andrew told Amanda about the invitation, she agreed without hesitation. More money and more time in a comfortable house were good enough reasons for her. She packed a small bag and made sure to look her best when Andrew picked her up. As they arrived at the family estate, Andrew's father greeted Amanda with open arms. He was clearly thrilled to see her again, treating her like she was already part of the family. He showered her with compliments, telling her how much he admired her grace and intelligence. Amanda smiled politely, keeping up the act. It was all going according to plan, and she was playing her part perfectly, but Andrew's mother wasn't so easily convinced. From the moment Amanda stepped through the door, his mother's eyes followed her, watching every move. She was suspicious, though she couldn't explain why. Something about Amanda didn't sit right with her. She felt like she had seen Amanda before, but she couldn't place where. And beyond that, she didn't believe the story Andrew had told them about how they met. It all felt too rushed, too convenient. As the weekend went on, Andrew's father only grew more attached to Amanda. He loved how well she spoke, how kind she was to everyone, and how she seemed to understand the family so well. He would pull Andrew aside, praising Amanda and telling him how lucky he was to have found such a wonderful woman. Andrew forced a smile each time, knowing the truth, but unable to say anything. Amanda meanwhile did her best to blend in. She talked with Andrew's father, laughed at his jokes, and charmed the other guests who visited during the weekend, but every time she looked over at Andrew's mother, she could feel the coldness in her stare. The tension was undeniable. Later that night, when they were alone, Amanda brought it up to Andrew. She told him she didn't think his mother liked her. There was something in the way she looked at her, something off. Andrew sighed, knowing his mother well. He assured Amanda not to worry. His mother could be difficult sometimes, but this was all just temporary. They only had to keep up the act for a little longer, and once the company was his, everything would be fine. He promised Amanda that he would find a perfect solution soon. Amanda nodded, but she wasn't fully convinced. She knew Andrew's mother was no fool. If she kept digging, it wouldn't be long before she uncovered the truth.